Hey everyone, good evening. I hope I'm audible and visible to everyone, right? Cool. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you. Yes, just give me a minute. Cool. So we'll start this session. Hmm. Okay, so first we'll go ahead, as always, we'll revise what we have done yesterday, and then we'll start with the new session. So yes. Okay, so yesterday we started a discussion with SQL versus NoSQL, and I've told you that although we started with SQL as structured form of database, but that is not the only way to go ahead and store the data. There are multiple other ways as well. There is graph database, there is column, there is key value, and there are other kind of things as well. There is document storage as well. And these all of these have a specific kind of use cases. For example, if you know what you want to store, then definitely you would want to go with maybe SQL or relational database management system. But it might be possible that sometimes you do not know, or the kind of structure that data SQL is offering you, that is very limiting for you. Okay, so that is why we have like both kind of databases, which is SQL and NoSQL databases. Just to give you a cheat sheet, SQL databases are mostly used for relational databases where we use rows and columns. While NoSQL database, it is document model, it is graph model, and other two that I have told you. Now, the pros of SQL are that it is very universal, compatible with many tools. Most of the developers that we are going to find, they actually know this, so it is easier for them to go ahead and quickly build something around. The second thing is it is great with structured data. If you already know what you want to fill and you do not have like many issues with scaling, then this is a good start. Similarly, on the second side, if schema is not a roadblock, as in you are not able to understand what should be the schema because the product is evolving, so maybe you can go ahead and go with the NoSQL. Similarly, it is built for horizontal scaling, as in if you are looking to add more servers, which will eventually you have to do when you go ahead and pick any kind of bigger applications, scaled applications, then NoSQL, by default, out of the box, it is going to go ahead and offer you the way to horizontally scale. Why? Because there are no relations between tables. So even if two tables are not in SQL, two tables have to be on the same machine in order to work efficiently. While here in NoSQL, since we don't have the concept of tables, we have document which contains everything. You can do it on one machine as well. Similarly, if you talk about the cons of both of the technologies, in SQL, we need to invest in schema design, and also it is difficult to scale horizontally. Although in the coming sessions, I'm going to tell you what are the ways that people use in order to scale SQL as well horizontally. But by out of box, it does not offers you the ability to scale in multiple computers, offering a same to the same kind of application. And then in NoSQL, the cons are technology is still maturing, so it has been evolving and it has been positively evolving. But yes, most of the people, they do not consider it as like a very fit solution for most of the tasks out there. And similarly, it needs extra work for interconnected data. So for example, if your document does not contain everything and you need to connect with other documents, then it might lose its horizontal scalability. But now, because you have to have similar kind of data on the same kind of place out there, for there also we have like similar kind of some kind of quick fixes that people have gone ahead and optimized for. So, but understand, in today's day and age, whatever SQL can do, NoSQL can also do. Whatever NoSQL can do, SQL can also do. Engineers have gone ahead, they have created optimizations for each and everything. And most of the time, you are going to find that if it is easier to do in NoSQL, people will do it in NoSQL. If it is easier to do in SQL, people will do it in SQL. And most of the applications, complicated applications that you are going to see these days, they are actually a combination of the both. So this is what we learned about NoSQL and SQL yesterday. And some examples of NoSQL, just for SQL, we have this Microsoft SQL, MySQL. While for this NoSQL, we have MongoDB, we have this company known as Redis, we have Elasticsearch, and we have multiple others as well. You can easily find a list on the internet. Now, then after that, we talked about the new session, which was about APIs. And we'll continue from there today. So introduction to API. So what is the API? API allows two systems to work with each other. So there are two technical systems who are isolated from each other. Now, if they want to talk to each other, they want to exchange data, they want to exchange functionality, then they need to have certain kind of protocol. That protocol is enabled by an API, which is application programming interface. One systems tells the other system that if you want to use me, if you want to take the functionality out of me, go ahead and use these kind of rules. Talk to me in this language, and I'm going to go ahead and answer to your question. I'll give the answer to your question. So for example, if Google had to go, if Uber has to go ahead and use Google Maps and they have to use any payment gateway such as Paytm in their own app, they would have to go ahead and read what Google Maps, what is written in the Google Maps API, and they will go ahead and consume the API by giving it some kind of request and getting some kind of response. So this was simply API. What are the use cases of API? UAPI could be used in three ways. First, it can add the functionality. It can complete the functionality of the product. You cannot imagine a Google, an Uber without a map. You cannot imagine an e-commerce without a payment gateway. You cannot imagine a cred without giving your, getting your payment, your credit score. So these things make sure that the APIs make sure that your app is completely functional. It is able to get the users jobs to be done fulfilled. The second is communicate with internal systems. Okay, so not only you should think that only like the external systems can connect with the APIs together, but even your internal systems, they could also be decoupled. So one developer or maybe a couple of developers or a team of developers is going to work on the front end. One developer or team of developers is going to work on the back end. And then they can coordinate with each other, or their systems can coordinate with each other through a form of an API. So internal, these days, we have also seen that people are going ahead and creating some API-based architecture as well. So for internal communication between two systems. So for example, if we have gone ahead and created like a backend, this backend should be able to go ahead and create front end on a mobile app, on a website, and also maybe a chatbot as well. So API would be there supplied from the backend, and then all of these three clients, the chatbot, the mobile app, and also the website, is going to consume that API. Similarly, the third is, which is also like a very popular use case, which is some companies go ahead and they offer their API as a business. So one very good use case is Google Maps. Google Maps has gone ahead. They have done the hard work of mapping out the whole world, and now they give it as a service for money, in exchange of money, to other players such as Uber, such as Swiggy and all. Similarly, for Stripe, they have gone ahead and partnered with all the banks that are possible and partnered with all of the credit card companies that is possible. And they have gone ahead and giving you like a simple interface through which your customer can go ahead and make money. You as a company, you as a startup or as an enterprise who tries to accept payment, you do not have to partner with all of these companies. So there are multiple use cases of this. Similarly, we talk about National Stock Exchange and Zerodha. So if someone has to buy a share or someone has to sell share, they can take a client such as Zerodha, they can take an ICICI Direct, they can something else, but on the back end, always the National Stock Exchange is going to be at the play. Okay, then pros and cons are like very easy, that without investing much time, you can go ahead and add a new functionality. You can go ahead and your development time is going to be manageable, and also you are actually building on the shoulder of the giants. Similarly, the cons are also very obvious, which is it adds the cost if the API is not free, which is not going to be in most of the scenarios. And also there is going to be a dependency as well, as an if in case these people are changing their APIs in future, that is like a very major risk there, then your system might break. So you have to always keep on listening how they are changing the APIs. Then we talk about terminology related to API. So we talk about endpoint, request, and response. What is the endpoint? Where you are making, what are you trying to do? You have to identify that, yes, this is the resource that I should, this is like the particular work that I need to do. And for that, I'm going to access this resource. Okay, so endpoint is a URL through which you are going to go ahead and get the information from, or post the information to. Similarly, we talk about request. Request also contains three important parts. First is type. Are you looking to put some data? Are you looking to update some data? Are you looking to store some data on the server? Are you looking to add a resource? Are you looking to delete some data, or are you looking to just get some data? Based on that, we have post, we have put, we have delete, and we have get. Similarly, for headers, we have authentication. So how would the people know, how would the API know if you are the right person to go ahead and do this? So this information, this is mostly not visible to the clients out there, and they can go ahead and send this information through headers. And if the client is intelligent enough, definitely they can find this data, but mostly to the end user, it is not visible. And then payload. Payload is what is the data that you want to send with your API. So for example, if I'm using a Google map in Uber, then Uber needs to send my latitude and longitude and the latitude and longitude of the destination to Google Maps in order to get that part of the map. Okay, so this was it. Then we talk about response as well. So response contains two things. One is the header, which contains the status, and then it also contains the body. Status is if the status is starting from 2, that means that it is a successful request out there. If it starts from 5, that means the error has happened, but it has happened at the server end. If it is starting 4, then you have made some request in the request, some error in the request, and then 3xs means the resource has been displaced from where you are asking it for, and then there is a body as well. Okay, so tell me everyone if you're able to understand what we have talked about yesterday, and quickly tell me, go ahead in the chat if you want to go ahead with today's session. Cool. Yes, so today is going to be a short session where we are going to talk about how will we go ahead and create the LinkedIn's internal APIs. Okay, so these are the 5 functionalities that LinkedIn provides. Okay, first is creating the user, editing the profile of the user, showing all request, create post and delete post. Okay, now if you want to design how this API is going to work, only in 3 parts. First is you should be able to go ahead and create maybe create any endpoint. Then second, you would be able to go ahead and understand what is the request that I'm going to send. And third is we should be able to know that yes, this is the input, this is the response that we are getting. Okay, so we are going to do this practice, and then we are going to see if we are able to understand or not. Yeah, Satya, you want to ask something?
Yes, Ankit, just in case we would be covering up anything on the performance side of things of this APIs, like any limitation on these many APIs only be to be used within certain application, like those things are there.
No, that is not. You're talking about performance of an API, right?
Not only about the API, the application itself, the other application which are actually talking, where we are using the API. I mean, we have an application and we need an API to be used by that application. So if that application itself having any performance limitation due to usage of these many APIs, like those I'm asking.
No, that we are not asking. So understand these things you have to solve by first principles. Okay, that for example, if there is like a performance glitch at a particular kind of service out there, any kind of particular kind of app out there, you then have to understand that yes, these could be 5 issues because of which the performance is getting affected. API could be one of them.
Okay, that's all. Okay.
Yeah. Silas, you want to add something?
Yes.
Yes,
sorry. So I wanted to ask one thing, that why is it so that we need to call API?
Silas, I think I lost you. Hello. Yeah, Silas, you can come again.
Hello, Ankit. So
yes, Silas, you're audible. Please.
Ankit, my question is, why is it so that I need to call internal API here in the first place? When I mean, these are the functionalities that are available within LinkedIn itself.
Yes.
The LinkedIn in while creating, updating, editing, and deleting posts, while all these functionality that are inherent to LinkedIn, while the API that are getting invoked in case of Uber or GPay or any other thing, that are something they happen to be 2 different systems. One is Uber, another happen to be Google Map. One is Paytm, another happen to be NPCI.
Right.
But here I don't see why internal API needs to be.
Yes, correct. That's a very good question. So if I have to rephrase the question is, if the front end and the back end is from the same companies, from the same product, why do we need to create an API? Why do we need to go ahead and take the pain of doing all of these things? That is the question, right? Is that the question, Sailesh? Okay, yes. So yeah, so can anyone go ahead and answer this question? If these are tools from the same company and there is no external system involved, why do we need to go ahead and create an API to talk between the external and the internal system? Someone else wants to give the answer apart from Shivam, because Shivam knows what API is.
Is it reusability? Otherwise, you'll have to write the code again and again. It's just calling that API and then getting the volume. You'll have to write the code and you'll also have to understand the nitty-gritties of how the things work. So reusability and actually knowing the code and probably looks like the reason.
Right, reusability is one of the part. Yeah, Shivam, you want to go ahead?
As I think it was discussed in the first or second session, so it depends on the architecture, how the system is designed. So earlier, before some 10 years back, the systems were mostly designed on a monolithic architecture. So now there everything was in one thing. So now we have different layers and separated out, so it increases the speed, it reduces the complexity, and it increases the speed of the application.
Yes, correct. So I'll tell you, I'll give you a more structured answer. Understand the question is that why do we need APIs? If I know what is going on in an internal system, why shouldn't I go ahead and use this directly? Okay, so first of all, understand that this is to make sure even if there are different, like there is a same product, the teams are different. Okay, and if you consider like any bigger kind of organization out there, you are going to see that the teams are decoupled. The front end team is other, the backend team is other. If someone is supposed to know each other's code, then it is not going to happen. Why? Because you will lose the scalability of the system. Why? Because you cannot go ahead and develop so aggressively because people have to know each other's code. So that is not possible. That is why we go ahead, we follow some kind of paradigm, which is an API. Okay, first is the teams are different. Second is it is decoupled. Okay, so right now what happens is that I have gone ahead and this is the server. Okay, this is the backend. Okay, now right now I'm starting my company with a simple thing. I want to create a website. Okay, and I have gone ahead without using an API. I have very closely or very very decoupledly integrated the server and the website. I have not created an API. There is no policy that I'm following of maybe request, response, or anything. I've just gone ahead and made sure that the server is doing everything and everything is integrated in the same without an API. Okay. Now tomorrow, if I want to create an app, I'll be stuck. I again have to go ahead and do most of the optimization because now I have to create maybe some more queries because data is not available in the form of easy to be consumed by this app because this consumes HTML while this consumes maybe XML or JSON. Similarly, if tomorrow, day after it, I have to develop a chatbot using the same application, then it is not there. So your API makes sure that there is a decoupling. Decoupling makes sure that your system is scalable. You can go ahead and change at any point of time, and your clients will make sure that they are also making only a small change, not the bigger change. That is why all the new companies, they make sure that there is going to be an API created. Yes, if it is a 1%, 2% company where 1 or 2 people are doing everything, then they might they might not to need not to create an API, but still it is a good practice to go ahead and create an API. Okay, with that, a very good term he has mentioned, Shivam has mentioned, which is a monolith architecture versus a microservices architecture. Okay, so what happens is that even in a product out there, even in one product owned by one company, you will see that monolith says that everything is one. Okay, you have one code base which contains each and everything. There is no decoupling in the systems out there. There is one database, there is one code base, and everything is edited or everything is updated over there. Okay, this is known as monolith. Most of the services are created initially as a monolith. Okay, and then we have microservices. Microservices, what we do is, for example, we have an e-commerce website. In the e-commerce website, we will have an order. We will have something which will go ahead and give the catalog. We will make sure there is something which is taking the payments. Okay. And then these things are talking to each other through a form of APIs, which will reduce dependability on anything and will also make sure that system is functioning, even if someone is working on here, or even if here I want to use SQL, here I want to use NoSQL. Here I want to use JavaScript, here I want to use Java. That is also possible. Why? Because it is microservices. Every component of my product is actually a different one. There are pros and cons to it, but mostly for the scaled applications, microservices architecture is something that is used. In the cloud, I'm going to tell you a very interesting story about how this all started in the cloud sessions. I hope that answers your question, Shailesh, in detail.
Yes, Ankit, but I still have one doubt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Let's consider for a moment that LinkedIn, LinkedIn example over here
Yes, yes.
is only functioning on website and there is no app. Now then, what is the point of getting API? I mean,
Yeah,
if
because you
it's
don't
simple
know.
website,
Yeah.
then
Yes, understand. That is a business decision. Okay. That every, like, you understand, if your consumers are there on app, if your consumers are going ahead and if they could be possibly there on WhatsApp, then why you are going ahead and limiting yourself to the website? Because then you are taking a tech debt. Okay. What you are doing is right now you are going ahead and saving your time. And tomorrow when your website is going to go ahead and it is going to pick up when you have to go ahead and create a mobile app, then you have to redo everything. Some companies are good with it. Some companies are not good with it. If your vision is already set, then maybe you should go ahead and build an API.
okay. So is it so? I mean, if let's say, I mean, in a LinkedIn example, they have taken only website route, and they have seen exponential growth of customers in their initial phases. So, and their server is not is not able to handle those sort of traffic.
Mhm.
For that reason, I mean, they're taking the route of API.
No. That is not the case. Okay, server load and anything does not have to do. It just makes sure that everything in your product is actually a small system which can
Mhm.
update by itself. Some people can go ahead and update it, and it is decoupled from other systems. Okay, so if the decoupling is not there, you can change it. For example, you are only like one system is doing only their task. Okay, so you can go ahead and scale as much as you want. So service is like load on server does not have to do anything. That is a different thing that we are going to study in system design. How do we make sure that we are scaling the servers? We have already given you an idea on horizontal scaling.
Okay.
Cool. Yes. So now we'll go ahead and we'll talk about this thing. Okay, we'll talk about LinkedIn internals API. The use case is very simple. That if you were a front-end engineer, person who is working on the website or the app of LinkedIn, how you are going to go ahead and make sure that yes, how you are going to go ahead and make sure that you are able to talk to LinkedIn and make sure that these functions are existing. Okay, so whenever we go ahead and create an API, we have to have three things. The first thing is the endpoint. Second thing is the request. And third thing we should know is what is the response that we can expect. Okay, so for example, I'll give you one example and then I'll ask you guys. Okay, so for example, creating the user, what the creating user will look like. The endpoint, I have just given you an example. I don't know what it is with endpoint, but I have just taken a guess. Okay, so api.linkedin.com/creates_user. This is the endpoint that we have given. If you send a request to this particular thing, then we might be able to create a new user. Okay, now this is half the picture. We have to also go ahead and send some kind of payload. Okay, payload is the name of the user we have to send and also the email of the user and maybe some other information as well. But this is just a sample information. This is the payload, what the payload contains. Similarly is method. What method? Since we are going ahead and uploading, trying to create a resource on the server in the form of a new user, then we have to go ahead and use post. Similarly, if it will reach to the system, the API will make sure that it is understanding if the email is occurring for the first time or not, if it's a new user or an old user, and based on that, it is going to store that user in the database, check its success, and then give the response back to the client that yes, this was successful 200, and the user ID of the new user is 123. So you can go ahead and get the user ID. You can do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, tell me everyone, yes or no, if you are able to understand what is happening here. A quick yes or no, please. Yeah, here understand, API has gone ahead and it has encapsulated everything. Okay, so here we do not know what is happening in create_user URL. Okay, there is a server that is listening there, and we do not know how it is taking the data, how it is storing the data, but we only know if we give this data to this person, then they are going to give us the same. For example, if I go ahead and give some money and my order to a restaurant, then that restaurant is going to turn up and give me my meal. I do not care about what is the content that they have put. I do not care about what is the total, like the kind of recipe that they have used over there. Okay, so that is there. After this, the second part is edit profile. Okay, so in edit profile also, we are going to use it. So can anyone tell me if we are going ahead and using the edit profile? Okay, so what should be the method over here? In edit profile, what would be the method over here? Yes, it could be post, it could be put. Okay, so both are okay. Okay, although we only use post when we are adding a resource, but understand when we are adding most of the people do not follow like the complete guideline to the end. So put is also good, post is also good. it is about adding or editing the data on the API. Okay. We have created a new example request, new example endpoint, which is api.linkedin.com/edit_user. Okay. We are going to make request over there. Then payload would be that this what I want to edit. Initially, my name was maybe Ankit, and now I want to edit my name as Ankit Kumar Shukla. Okay. And now I will also push an user ID. Why? Because if I want to edit about someone, I should be knowing, I should be having one key in order to determine what are they trying to edit. Whenever we make a put method, when we use a put method, we have to also tell what are we trying to edit. Okay. And similarly, here one thing is also important, which is header. Header, I have told you, it is used for authentication. So understand, it should not be possible that any user can go ahead and they can add the details of any user. Okay. So that is why they will also generate an authentication code. Authentication code will tell LinkedIn that yes, this is the same user that should be able to access this particular, added this particular resource. Similarly, the response is also same. The body will return that yes, I have gone ahead and changed the name, and the status will be 200. Okay, so now can you guys tell me how I want to know the friend requests, any connection request that this person has received? Can anyone tell me how it is going to look like? What apart from the endpoint, can you tell me what the request and response would be? Anyone, what do you think the request would be? I want to see all the friend requests that I have received.
Ankit, one quick question. How does the header or authentication look like really in terms of
How the
whenever a user is logging, how does it look like really?
Okay, I'll tell you that how header works. Okay, so yes. Number one, okay. I will put my login information. What is the login information? I will just go ahead and this I'm telling you for a website and an app. So in the login, what will happen is that I will put my email and I will put my password. This would be sent to, or maybe I can go ahead and send this through an API, or I can send this through a login form that is there on the website. Okay, so front-end team can send it, or an API can also send it. After this, what will happen? This is being sent to the server. The server will understand. It will try to understand if this email and password are correct, because it would have it stored. How it is storing, we are going to discuss later. They do not store the plain password. Okay. Then if it is correct, yes, then server will generate an authentication code, a unique authorization code. There's a difference between authentication and authorization. I do not know the real difference, but you should go ahead and check it out on the internet definitely. Okay, so there is authorization code that will be sent. That is a very big encrypted code, and it would have some kind of authentication time as well. That for this time only it is going to be valid. Okay, now this code would be generated. For example, XYZEM123. This code is there. Once this login is correct, this code will be generated. It will be sent to the client. Now the API will save it. And for every request, it will make sure that it is pushing this information in the header, so that at any point of time, it is needed that yes, this information could only be accessed by this particular resource. This key would be used in order to authenticate whether he's the same user or not. So this is how authentication works. Was the question the same, Salesh or Vivek, whoever asked the question?
Yeah. So this is the same. One thing here as well. So obviously, I'm assuming that this will remain the same during one session, right? Because this login is
yes. If you log out, and then it's going to go away.
And how
or
does
most of the
how does
times,
the system?
Yeah. Tell me.
How does the system validate? Because somebody could, a hacker could just send some random value, because I'm assuming this value, which is authentication code or authorization code, is stored somewhere and then it is validated at the time of the API being hooked, right? That's how.
Yes. So it is validated. We are going to talk about how registrations and signups in various kind of systems work. There you'll understand how this authentication happens.
Okay.
Cool. Yes. So now talking about the next thing, which is show all connection requests. Okay, here we'll go ahead and make, this is a sample endpoint. Authorization, yes, authorization is there because I should be able to see my connection requests. Payload, user ID, and I'll put count. Someone has correctly mentioned the limit of records. Okay, so I want these many people and this is my user ID. Okay, and then method get. So we'll go ahead and do this. Understand, maybe it is possible that you do not want to give the user ID. Why? Because your authorization will always tell the API that who is this particular user. Okay, so user ID may or may not be required, but yes, we have put it. Method is get because we are trying to get the information. We are not putting anything on the system out there. Okay, so that is going to be a correction. And then body, we'll just go ahead and put a list, which is user ID, profile pic, name, account link. Similarly for second user, similarly for third user, we are going to push n like a list of things, also known as an array of things. A quick yes or no, everyone, if you're able to understand this. Rohan, Vivek, tell me if you're able to understand this. Why this is a get request and all. Because we are getting the data. Okay. Now second is create post. Okay, so in create post, we have created a sample API again, which is api.linkedin.com/create post. And understand these questions, like when you are applying for even like a semi-technical product manager role, these are the questions that could be asked, that what would an API look like? So we have seen these kind of questions in interviews. If you are not paying attention, please pay. And second is create post. How we go ahead and create a post when we go ahead and write something on that box on LinkedIn where we can add the status, and then we create post, what happens? Okay, so create post is the endpoint. Then we'll go ahead and add a payload, which is post text, and we also add user ID. We'll use a method. Okay, we'll also add authorization, because you should be able to know if people are able to go ahead and send the this person is able to go ahead and create a post or not, and you should be able to know that if whatever user ID they are mentioning, they're actually the same user or not. Otherwise, everyone will post on everyone else's behalf. Okay, and then there is a method. Method is going to be post. Okay, then you go ahead. Body would be success, or they will return the same item that is being generated over there. And there is a status would be 200. Okay, if I go ahead and if the screen is blank, okay, and like I have not typed anything, if I create post button, so what will happen in that case? From an API, what is the status that I'm going to see? If I'm not putting any information in the status, I'm just going ahead and clicking the create post button. What error should I really appear?
Would be 4xx.
Yes, it would be 4xx. Okay, it would be 4xx because the 4xx stands for there is an error at your end. Your request was not completely created. Okay, so but it is not going to be a 404 error. Why? Because 404 error happens when the endpoint does not exist. Here endpoint is there, the create post endpoint is there, but your request was not correct. So that is going to be a 4xx error, but not a 404 error. Okay, so just to find the right name of that, bad request error. Bad request is 400 bad request. Okay, this is there. Similarly, if a person goes ahead, if they are not authenticated. Okay, for example, I have an authentication code for myself, and now I am trying to update an update on the basis of maybe on the basis of Manohar. Okay, I'm trying to push status from their account. Then what will happen is that I'll be shown an error that it is 400. Yes, correct.
401, I think it is.
4 not forbidden. Permission denied. I think it would be 403 forbidden. You cannot do it. 401 is not mentioned over there, but yes, you can go ahead and search about these kind of errors. Then if, for example, I have posted something, but the server has run out of memory, which error would be shown now? Which class of error would be shown now? I have gone ahead and created a post, but yes, yeah. So some error starting from 5xx will appear.
Internal server error, I think it will be that.
Yes, correct. So there could be an error which is from the. It depends on how the server is behaving. If it is saying that no, I do not have the memory, if it knows that what has happened, then it will show you a particular kind of 5xx error. If it does not know, it is just a 500 error. I don't know what has happened. Okay, but it has happened from the server side. Okay. Similarly, if yeah, so body and status is there. 200, I've told you what it is. And delete post, it is also very simple. If I want to delete a post, authorization I would need so that I can only delete the post that I'm able to, that I should be able to. Then payload is post ID, and then method is delete. Okay, but understand most of these days, like the internet is written in ink. Most of the time when they say that they are deleting, they are actually not deleting. They are just putting a enable or disable tag or a status tag from 0 to 1. So you cannot see it, but mostly it is stored with them. So it is mostly a put request, which is like porting itself as a delete request. Put, which means that you are editing the status.
Soft delete.
Yes, soft delete. Okay, so GDPR has this law that if it says delete, you should be able to go ahead and delete all of your information from there. Okay, but I'm not sure how many companies are following it. Okay, so this is it. Now everyone tell me on a scale of 1 to 5, how is your understanding of API right now? Before the session and after the session, please. What was your understanding of API before yesterday? And what is your understanding of API today on a scale of 1 to 5? Cool. I think 4 should be good. 4 should be good. Yes. 403 error is an invalid key. Okay. 403 invalid key, which means that authorization was not correct, which means that this person is not able to do the task that he's trying to do. Should not be doing the task that they are trying to do. So authentication issue. Cool. So now we'll go ahead and we'll quickly talk about a tool, okay, which is very famous. So like not a very important tool, but since I'm not sure why people are very much enthusiastic about tools these days, so I'm introducing you to a tool which is known as Postman. So Postman online you can search, okay, and then you will go to this web version of Postman. Actually, this is like a tool that you can download and do all of this stuff, but you can also use it on online if you do not want to download it. Okay, and this is the tool to understand. If I want to test all of these things, okay, so as a developer, I need to test that whether this is working in the correct way or not. Okay, before I could create. So if I want to check this, okay, I need to have an UI where this post would be mentioned, a cross or delete button would be there. I need to click it, then the request would be sent, and then I'll see it is working or not. Okay, so people do not want to create interfaces all the time when they go ahead and when they want to go ahead and like test these kind of APIs. So that is why we have a tool known as Postman, which helps you test these APIs. So whatever get, post, delete we have read, you can go ahead and test all of this in a tool known as API, known as Postman. Okay, so this is what Postman looks like. What you need to do is, okay, so I'll share the link in the chat. Okay, and then I'll ask you guys to do one small exercise. Okay, so this is how it works. This is there. Once you are in the interface, so I'll share the link with you. You can create a new account that is only going to take 2 minutes. After that, you will come to this interface where you have to go ahead and click on create new. Okay, we will create an HTTP request. Okay, so yes, here we will write like we are writing an API which we are going to call by get. Okay, so let us call google.com. Okay, so what will happen is that this Postman will try to call an endpoint known as google.com, and the parameter would be nothing would be there in the parameter, and the endpoint would be google.com. Okay, so what do you guys think is going to happen here? What do you think is going to happen here? If I get google.com, what will happen here? I have not mentioned anything in the request payload. Any answers? What will happen here if I go ahead and execute this?
Nothing will happen. It will just give the response. Maybe like invalid request or something. Or
Let us see. Right now, it's stuck. Yeah, so it has given us the HTML of what the Google page looks like, right? So what happens? Your browser is actually doing this every time. Okay, so when your browser goes ahead and calls any website, it is actually giving a GET request to this website. So if you go ahead and preview this, you will see that this is actually the Google homepage that we are trying to see. Okay, and this is like the HTML that we have talked about in the first or second session, that yes, if you go ahead and copy this and paste it in a browser, okay, paste it in a file and call it as an .html file. And when you open that file in Chrome, you are going to see this page. So it is just HTML and everything that we have written. Okay, now let us check with one API. So free weather API. We'll look at maybe this. So as a product manager, it might come to you sometimes as a responsibility that you have to make sense of the API docs. Okay, so it is a good practice to go ahead and look at the API docs. Am I audible to everyone? Hello? Am I audible to everyone? Just a quick yes or no? Yes, cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, cool. So yes, view the docs. I think they have something paid, so I'll go to a different one. I'll open this one. Okay. Cool. This is the API doc. And here they say that you have to make an API call over here. This is the API key that you want to store. This is a part, and this is it. Okay, you have to store the latitude and longitude. Cool. And this is how the response would be. So for example, if you go ahead and put all of this information, so I'll copy this. This API, what it does is, if I call this URL, then whatever latitude and longitude I have provided, which is the location, then it is going to give me what is the temperature or what is the weather at that particular place. Okay, so let us check this out. Understand, we do not have an API key right now. So I'll just go ahead and copy this and paste this in this here. Okay, so understand, whatever request that I'm sending here, automatically the postman has gone ahead and break down in the form of parameters. Okay, so I can go ahead and edit it very easily. I do not have to edit it here. I can edit it here only. Okay, I do not have an API key, but I'll go ahead and send. Let us see what happens. Please note that using one call requires and subscription via one call. Okay, so they say that 401, which is you are not authenticated. And then you have to go ahead and get a subscription in order to do all of this stuff. Okay, so authentication has failed. Let's check if we have another open API. This looks good. Cool. So here I'll go ahead and read the docs. So I'll copy this. This is a sample of API. I'll go ahead and copy this. Okay. And then we'll understand what is happening. Okay. So this is the URL. This till here, till forecast is the endpoint. And then all of these things are latitude and longitude. Okay. So if I want to go ahead and check the temperature in this particular latitude longitude, I can go ahead and click on send. So it is there. So it has mentioned that at these timings, this is going to be the temperature. So then the developer has to go ahead and they have to match all of these to the temperature that are mentioned right now. Okay, so this is how. So they might have gone ahead and collected data from somewhere, and now they are giving it in the form of an API. Okay, a very popular API is also a Google Maps API that we have been talking about. So as I've told you, sometimes this responsibility of reading the API docs can also come to you so that you understand what is the power of this API. Okay, what is it that it can do? So let us talk about maybe places. Make your first find place request. Okay, and this is there. Okay, so this is the endpoint. Maps, google.api.com, maps API, find place from text output. And then this is the endpoint. And then here we are going to write the parameters. Let us see what parameters are possible. Input, input type, basic. So this is the API that we'll call. And then, so when Uber is going ahead and they are trying to get a place, or if any app that shows you particular tourist place, what they are doing is they are calling this API through get, and then they are putting here in the place of text query, they are going ahead and putting the real name of the place. So I'll go ahead, copy this. Although it is not going to work because we do not have API, do not have an API key, but we'll go ahead and check this. So I'll remove this. I'll copy this. Okay, so now you could see, so these are the fields. This is the input. We have not given any query. So if I click on this, same error will occur because I do not have an API key right now. Okay, but here understand they have sent it on the basis of like they have gone ahead and not given like a good JSON response. They have just gone ahead and put some kind of HTML over there. So this is not like not a very well-made API because it is not working as expected. One more API I think Rohan has sent. Let me check. Yes. So if you want to check the current price of various kind of currencies, you can just go ahead, copy this.
I think it kind of gives you a Bitcoin price, the current Bitcoin price.
Yes, correct. So it gives you the Bitcoin price, which is like converted to the various kind of currencies. Correct. So this is the raw request. This is how it will look like on a web browser. Okay. So this is it. This is about it, guys. Any question from the API so far? Okay, so there are so many APIs and which do like really wonderful things. There are so many free APIs also available. If you search for just free APIs on the internet, I'm sure you are going to find a lot of resources. This is like, yeah, this is like a resource list where a lot of APIs are present. If you want to go ahead and you can test them out. Okay, so any of the tools that you are using in your system, most of them are going to have APIs because these days people create APIs first and then they go ahead and create the product.
This is the same website I got this from.
Yeah,
I mean, not today, but before, but yeah, it's the same
right.
website.
So
I got
it is the
from.
first result
Yeah.
on Google. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, correct. So this is there. Cool. So this is there. And yes, if I go ahead and copy this thing, this will give me my API in the JSON format. Okay, so I'll go ahead, copy it here and send. So this is my API. This is my IP right now. Okay, so you guys can go ahead. You can go to web.postman.co. You can create your own account and then you can the list I'm going to share in the resources out there so that you can go ahead and I've also send it in the chat. You can go ahead and test these kind of APIs to know if you are able to work with them or not, and then understand as everything in technology, you will tweak with things, you will fight with them in order to go ahead and understand them in a bit more detail. Okay, so now in the next session, we are going to talk a brief about cloud and system design. Cloud is about how do you go ahead and go out of your limitations of one machine, two machine and build it on the cloud, which is like taking as many machines as possible, how to create a virtual environment, why it is necessary, what is the story behind the AWS, everything I'm going to tell you in maybe tomorrow's session. And then we are also going to talk about system design, how that orchestration takes place, as in how do we make sure that yes, if a system is how the system is able to go ahead and take loads of so many people out there, what are the strategies that different companies have implemented. Okay, so we are going to stop the session for today right now, which is APIs we have done. We have talked about Postman. In the tomorrow session, we are going to talk about cloud and system design. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Bye and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.